అంటే ఇక్కడ పడదాం
మీ దగ్గర చెప్తాను. సరిపోయింది కదా? ఇంకేం క్లిక్ చేయకూడదు. ఓకే. Good afternoon to all students. Today's topic is estimation of total calcium. It is a demonstration class. So in this class, we need to know about what is calcium, how it is calcium present in the blood, how much it is present, what are the abnormalities if it is elevated or reduced. Everything we need to know before estimation of the serum total calcium. So introduction, what is calcium? It is a mineral found in the body tissues, bone and teeth. So here 90% of the total calcium that is present in the bones and teeth, remaining 1% only present in the cells and extracellular spaces. So some calcium it is found in the blood as a free or ionized calcium. So when it is free or ionized calcium, that calcium is only that is participated in the different reactions of the metabolic reactions. When it is bonding stage, it is if it is bonding with any other molecules or proteins, it is never participated in any reactions. Why is the test done? So if a patient has symptoms like nausea, vomiting, abdominal cramps, tingling sensation, so in these symptoms we need to know about the calcium levels in the serum. So we need to estimate the calcium levels. So these are the symptoms. What are those? Nausea, vomitings, abdominal cramps and tingling sensation. So here total 1 kg of calcium that is present in humans averagely. So in that some books they are mentioning 1200, but here average is 1 kg of calcium that is present in the human body. So in that 1 kg of the calcium, 90% that is present in the bones and teeth, and remaining 1% that is present in that 1%, 0.8% that is present in soft tissues like muscle, and less than 0.2% that is present in extracellular fluid. Okay, so here calcium is having different functions in the soft tissues, extracellular fluid and in the skeleton. So most of the calcium, that is 99% of the calcium that is stored in the bones as a hydroxyapatite. Okay, so in the muscle, you know that how muscle contraction that is takes place. So calcium has a major role in the muscle contraction. Next one is extracellular fluid. So this extracellular fluid, when we are maintaining extracellular fluid sufficient calcium, that intracellular also that is mainly depending on this extracellular fluid. How it is, I will explain in the next slides. So here calcium in plasma, that free calcium, free ionized calcium, that is 50%. 50% of the calcium that is free calcium. Remaining 50% that is protein bond, that is 40%, and 10% is complex calcium. Okay, so here 50% that is present inside the free calcium, and 40% that is protein bond calcium, and 10% is complex calcium. So here free ionized calcium, that is 50%. When it is free ionized calcium, that is only biologically active calcium. So that means when it is free ionized calcium available in the blood, that is actively participated in the different metabolic reactions. Okay, so free ionized calcium, that is called biologically active calcium. this biologically active calcium that is regulated by the calcium regulating hormone, that is especially parathyroid hormone and vitamin D, active vitamin D. Next one is 10% of the calcium that is complexed with different anions. So here calcium is having a positive ionic charge. Okay, so calcium is the cation, so it is always bind with the anions. So here 10% of the calcium that is bind with the anions. Remaining 40% of the free calcium that is bind with the proteins. So in that 40% of the protein bond calcium, 80% of the calcium that is bind with the albumin and 20% that is bind with the globulin. So here total 80% with the albumin and 20% with the globulin. So here this free ionized calcium that is not available in the protein when it is bind with the protein. So here this protein bind calcium that is biologically inactive calcium. Here free ionized calcium that is biologically active calcium. Okay. So here total serum calcium normal range is 8.6 to 10.3 milligrams per deciliter. 8.6 to 10.3 milligrams per deciliter. So here how much of calcium that is bind with the protein, that is mainly depending on pH, hydrogen ion concentration. So here protein, we know that protein structure, the proteins are containing so many group of amino acid sequences. So in the amino acid structure, what it is containing, amino group and carboxyl group, negative charge and positive charge. So here calcium is called cation. Okay, so cation that is always bind with the anion, negative group of the protein. So here protein negative, here protein negative charge that is mainly depending on the pH dependent. So we know that pH disorders, metabolic alkalosis, metabolic acidosis, respiratory alkalosis, respiratory acidosis. So in the alkalosis, proteins are getting to negative ionic charge. So in the alkalosis, when protein is getting negative ionic charge, this calcium that binds with the protein. So more calcium in the alkalosis state, more calcium that binds with the protein negative charge. So here alkalosis lead to increase in negative charge and binding capacity of the calcium and reduce in free calcium. So here you can see in the alkalosis, it is having high pH, few protons are hydrogen ions. So here when we are having more albumin, more calcium that is binds with the albumin negative charge. So when it is more calcium binds with the protein negative charge, the availability of the free calcium that is reduced. So that condition is called hypocalcemia. So when it is occur hypocalcemia, when free calcium that is not available in the blood. So free calcium. So when it is having more protein albumin, that means more calcium that binds to the albumin in the alkalosis condition. In the acidosis, what happened? In the acidosis, proteins are not having more negative charge. It is having a positive charge. Hydrogen ions are, more hydrogen ions are present in the protein. That means there is no free space for negative ionic charge to bind calcium ions to the protein. So in that condition, free calcium ions are increased. So when free calcium ions are increased, that condition is called hypercalcemia. Okay, so completely here that conclusion is calcium binding capacity to the protein that is completely depending on the pH concentration. Next one is complexed calcium. So some of 10% of the calcium that is binds with the some inorganic and organic anions. What are those examples? You can see bicarbonate, lactate, phosphate, and citrate. So here calcium is complexed with these components, anions. So this is the example. So here EDTA, ethylene diamine tetraacetate, it is having a more negative charge, O groups. So here calcium immediately that binds to the negative ionic charge. Okay. This is one example. This is another example, calcium bicarbonate. So two bicarbonates combined together by calcium ions. This is complexed calcium. Next one is physiologically calcium classified as intracellular calcium or extracellular calcium. So calcium is mainly present in intracellular or extracellular. So here in this image you can see it is broken. Why? Because when the intracellular calcium is elevated, that condition is called here when the intracellular calcium that is increased inside the cell, then broken of the cells that is takes place. So that is called cell death or apoptosis. So that means programmed cell death. So to reduce this status apoptosis, immediately whatever calcium present inside the cell that has to transfer from intracellular to the extracellular. So how it is intracellular calcium that is transported to the extracellular? When the cell is getting energy, ATP, then intracellular excess of the intracellular calcium that is releasing into the extracellular space. So here the transport mechanism of the calcium from extracellular to intracellular or intracellular to extracellular, that is taken by, so here you can see calcium that is entering into the cell. So calcium entering into the cell that is mainly depending on two gated channels. What are those? One is ligand gated channel. Second one is voltage gated channel. So ligand gated channels mostly here it is the ligand gated channels. So calcium that has to enter into the cell. So before that this ligand gated channel has to open. So how it is open? When it is mainly it is controlled by hormone or neurotransmitters. So when a hormone or neurotransmitter that is attached to this receptor, then this gated channel is open, then that calcium is enters into the cell. Like that, voltage gated channel is also that is controlled by electric membrane potential. Then only that calcium is that is enters into the cell. So after entering into the cell, when it is exceed the range, then that calcium has to eliminate from the intracellular to the extracellular. So when intracellular calcium that is transported to the extracellular due to getting energy, when the cell is getting energy, then that available calcium that is transported from intracellular to extracellular. So here it is depending on two channels. One is ATP dependent pump, one is sodium calcium exchange. So when the energy is available to particular cell, whatever calcium that is present due to phosphorylation, that intracellular calcium that comes to the extracellular. Like that, sodium calcium exchanger, it is antipode. When the sodium that enters into the cell along with the potassium, so calcium is also that is comes from intracellular to the extracellular. So here some of the calcium in the inside the cell that is stored in cell organelles, those are mitochondria and a smooth endoplasmic reticulum. So here you know that muscle contraction. So when it is muscle contraction takes place, either extracellular calcium and intracellular calcium, sacroplasmic reticulum due to in the inside the muscle cell, sacroplasmic reticulum that releases the calcium to the muscle contraction. So in that muscle function I will tell you extracellular functions. This is about intracellular calcium reactions. So intracellular calcium functions. So now we know that how calcium that is entering into the cell. Then after, whatever calcium that is available inside the cell, that calcium participated in the different reactions. So that is called different functions. One is muscle contraction, hormone secretion, glycogen metabolism, and cell division. So these are all functions that is depending on calcium available inside the cell. So here one example, muscle contraction. So for the muscle contraction that is required calcium inside the cell. So here it is the muscle structure. It is containing actin, myosin, tropomyosin, troponin complexes. So here it is, first one is relaxed stage, second one is contracting stage. So for this contraction of the muscle, it is required calcium ions. So when the calcium in the relaxing stage of the muscle, that is attached to the troponin. So troponin is having a calcium binding states. So here calcium that is immediately binds to the calcium troponin. Then this myosin binding sites are exposed in the contracting stage. So in the relaxed stage, this actin that is containing myosin binding sites. But here in the relaxing stage, these myosin binding sites are occupied by the tropomyosin. Okay. So when it is wants contraction, immediately calcium binds to the troponin. Then this myosin binding sites are exposed to binding with the myosin filament. So here another image. Here when it is exposed to myosin active site of the myosin, so myosin immediately that binds to the active site of the myosin. Then it transports energy to the actin filaments. Then muscle contraction that is takes place. So this is about muscle contraction and calcium role. Next one is nerve conduction. For the nerve conduction, neurotransmitters are transported from one nerve to another nerve, or one nerve to muscle. Okay. So synapses or neuromuscular junction. So here for these reactions, for transport of sensations from the one neuron to another neuron, these synaptic vesicles transported from one neuron to another neuron. So when it is reached these synaptic vesicles from the one neuron to another neuron, before that synaptic vesicles that has to come to the synaptic cleft. So this transport of synaptic vesicles to the synaptic cleft, that is mainly depending on the calcium ion concentration at the extracellular fluid. So here calcium, when it is available extracellular calcium, then that gated channels are open. This calcium that enters into the neuron. Then when it is calcium enters into the neuron, immediately that synaptic vesicles are binds with the protein. Then this synaptic vesicles releases vesicles are released into the synaptic cleft. So this is one function, second function that is mainly depending on calcium ions. So next one is that is about intracellular calcium. Next one is extracellular calcium. So whatever calcium present outside the cell. So here extracellular calcium is mainly two types: diffusible, not diffusible. So diffusible, when it is diffusible, when it is having a small in size. So these diffusible ions are small in size. These are not diffusible because of more in size. So first one is diffusible calcium. So diffusible calcium is free ionized calcium, complexed calcium. So free ionized calcium is in the with compared to these two, free ionized calcium and complexed calcium, free ionized calcium is participated in different reactions in different places. So here free ionized calcium functions are neuron action potential. So just now I showed you that neuron action potential. Next one is contraction of the muscle. Next one is hormone secretion. Next one is blood coagulation. So free calcium or the extracellular calcium that is participated in all these reactions. But here, when the free calcium that is complexed with the anions, like oxalate, so here it is not having any cellular, it is not participating in any cellular processes. Why? Because here calcium that is neutralizing in states, because it is anion, it is cation. Calcium is the cation combining with the anion. Anions are negatively charged. So here positive charge that is combining with the negative charge, there is a neutralization, there is no charge. So it is not useful, not useful for cellular processes. So like that, not diffusible calcium, extracellular calcium. So here, most of the calcium in the blood, that is 80% of the calcium that is combining with the albumin. So when it is combining with the albumin, the availability of the free calcium that is not there. So here it is the molecular weight, because of this albumin molecular weight, that this is getting large in size. So it is also not involved in cellular processes. So you must remember, calcium when it is in free in stage, that free calcium only participated in different reactions or functions. Extracellular calcium functions. So here extracellular calcium provide calcium ions for the maintenance of intracellular calcium. So here already I explained you. So here intracellular calcium, it is in the neuron, it is participated in the synaptic vesicle transports to the nerve into the synaptic cleft. So for this main reaction, that is mainly depending on the calcium intracellular. So if this reaction wants to maintain, so this calcium concentration inside the neuron, that is mainly depending on the extracellular calcium. This is one of the function of the extracellular calcium. Second one is bone mineralization. So this means, so whatever free calcium that is present in the blood, that is taken by the 99% of the calcium taken by bones. Okay, that is for bone mineralization. Third function is blood coagulation and plasma membrane potential. So here blood coagulation process, you know that this is one of blood coagulation process. So when there is a break of the artery, there is a leakage of blood from the arteries. So in our system, that is automatically that clot formation that is takes place. So here in the blood, platelets are, when the arteries are broken, immediately platelets are activated. So activated platelets immediately combine with the RBCs. So then platelets are combining with the RBCs, then that produces a fibrin. So fibrin is the clot forming agent. So fibrin that is comes from the fibrinogen. So here calcium is playing main role in the formation of the fibrin. So here calcium function is the inactivated prothrombin that is activated by the calcium. So when the prothrombin is activated, that produces thrombin. So thrombin then further reaction that is produces fibrinogen. So finally clot formation that is produced. So here one of the function clot formation for the formation of fibrinogen that is depending on one of the clotting factor calcium. Next one is hypocalcemia, calcium disorders. So calcium disorders are mainly two types. One is hypocalcemia, one is hypercalcemia. So hypocalcemia means here everyone must remember what is the normal range of calcium in the blood. So in the blood we know that 8.6 to 10.3 milligrams per deciliter. So when it is less than 8.5 milligrams per deciliter, that condition is called hypocalcemia. So hypocalcemia means that there is a availability of the free calcium or albumin bond calcium that is reduced. Okay, either albumin bond calcium or either free calcium or both are reduced in the blood. So in that conditions we are getting the blood calcium value is less than 8.5 milligrams per deciliter. So here serum calcium that is mainly depending on the albumin concentration in the blood. Why? Because here 1 gram deciliter of albumin that is binds to the 0.8 milligrams per deciliter of calcium. So here whatever calcium present in the blood 0.8 milligrams per deciliter that binds to the 1 gram of albumin. So albumin concentration is also that mainly depending on hypercalcemia or hypocalcemia. So here common causes of hypocalcemia. So what are the common causes? So here that the common causes of hypocalcemia when the calcium concentration is reduced in the blood. So mainly chronic renal failure, thyroidectomy or hypomagnesemia. So if you wanted to understand these reactions, you have to know normal function. So here you can see this image regulation of the calcium in the blood. So here in the blood when we are having low calcium concentration, so immediately that signals are passes towards the parathyroid gland. So here parathyroid gland then after it is sensing low calcium concentration in the blood. Then immediately that releases the parathyroid hormone from the parathyroid glands. So this parathyroid hormone that is acts on bone and kidney. So in the bone, that is bone resorption that is takes place, then calcium from the bones that is released and reached into the blood for regulation. Another one, parathyroid hormone that is acts on kidney. So when parathyroid hormone acts on kidney, that more calcium that is reabsorption of the calcium that is takes place. So when the reabsorption of the calcium takes place, the whatever calcium that is released into the kidney that is not excreted, that is reabsorbed by renal arteries, then that is enter into the blood for regulation. So here in the healthy kidney, we know that vitamin D synthesis that is takes place in the liver and then in the kidney. So in the liver that is producing 25 hydroxy vitamin D. Then that 25 hydroxy vitamin D that is transported to the kidney. Then further formation of 1,25 dihydroxy vitamin D that is produced in the kidney. So this is the active vitamin D, 1,25 dihydroxy vitamin D, active vitamin D that is produced in the healthy kidney. Then this vitamin D that activates the absorption of the more calcium in the intestine. So absorption of the more calcium that is mainly depending on the active vitamin D. So when it is absorbs more calcium, that calcium is enters into the blood circulation. So here hypocalcemia, when it is happen, either, so here you can see hypoproteinemia. So hypoproteinemia, when the blood is not having protein concentration, that means that is especially in the chronic renal failure. So in the chronic renal failure, what happened? More protein that is excreted into the out, as into the urine. That means whatever calcium that is binding to the protein, that along with the protein, calcium is also that is excreted out. Okay, in that image you can see. So here now calcium, when it is reduced, when there is a parathyroid hormone is reduced, when there is a reabsorption of the calcium is reduced, when there is a vitamin D concentration synthesis that is reduced. So in these conditions only, that calcium concentrations are reduced in the blood. So here there is no problem in the parathyroid gland. So here it is producing normal concentration of the parathyroid hormone. So here when the kidney chronic renal failure, that kidney is, there is no normal function. So when there is no normal function, that is reduces calcium reabsorption. So when it is reduces reabsorption of the calcium, that more calcium has to enter into the urine. So wasting of calcium due to renal failure. So another one is, when the renal failure takes place, there is no formation of active vitamin D. So when there is no formation of active vitamin D, there is no availability of vitamin D to absorb calcium in the intestine. So this is also one of the reasons to reduce less calcium in the blood. Okay. Another one is hypersensitive. So here skeletal resistance to parathyroid hormone. So here there is no resistance to parathyroid hormone. So when there is no resistance to parathyroid hormone to this bone, this calcium is not released from the bone. So when it is not released from the bone, calcium, thus less concentration we will observe. That is hypocalcemia. So another one is thyroidectomy. So when in some conditions, cancer conditions, partially we are removing the thyroid gland, or completely we are removing the thyroid gland. So along with the thyroid gland, parathyroid glands also we are removing. So here when we are removing, there is no chance to produce parathyroid hormone. So when there is no availability of parathyroid hormones, so there is no action of the reabsorption or bone resorption. So these are the conditions. In these conditions, we will observe low serum calcium or hypocalcemia. Okay. So another reason is hypomagnesemia. This is also one of the mineral. So here, in excessive use of alcohol, diuretics drugs, antibiotics, and in diabetes mellitus, increased sodium and calcium excretion along with the results in renal magnesium wasting. So in these conditions, alcohol intake, different types of drugs, antibiotics, and in the diabetes mellitus also, we are losing more magnesium along with the sodium and calcium. In these conditions also, hypocalcemia may occur. Okay, this is about hypocalcemia causes. Next one is hypercalcemia. So hypercalcemia means, so here also hypercalcemia when it is occur, in the same image you can see when the parathyroid gland releasing more parathyroid hormone, that more parathyroid hormone causes to reabsorption of the more calcium. Here resorption of the more calcium that is takes place. So when the reabsorption of the more calcium or resorption of the more calcium, these are the conditions that is elevating the more calcium in the blood. And here vitamin D, when it is excess of vitamin D is produced in the kidney, this is also one of the reason that is producing excess of absorption of the calcium in the intestine. This is also one of the reason to elevate serum calcium. So here hypercalcemia. So hypercalcemia, that to normal range 8.6 to 10.3, there is some variations from lab to lab depending on reagent companies. So here that average is calcium when it is elevated above 10.6 milligrams per deciliter, that condition is called hypercalcemia. So hypercalcemia can be caused by, so here hypercalcium, serum calcium that is elevated. So when it is elevated, it is when it is absorbed more calcium from the intestine. So when it is more calcium is absorbed in the intestine, that is depending on vitamin D concentration. So when the vitamin D concentration is elevated, there is a chance to get more calcium absorption in the intestine. There are some drugs also that is producing more calcium in the intestine. Okay, that is one. Next one is when the renal excretion of the calcium, reabsorption of the calcium, more calcium reabsorption that is takes place, that is also one of the reason to produce more calcium in the blood. Next one is bone resorption. When the more bone resorption that is takes place, there is a chance to get more calcium in the blood. So these are all controlled by the thyroid hormones. So when these parathyroid hormones are producing more parathyroid hormone, there is a chance to get more calcium in the blood. So here, in which conditions that is more calcium, that is more parathyroid hormone is released from the parathyroid gland. So here mainly approximately 90% of the cases hypercalcemia are caused by malignancy or hyperparathyroidism. So here malignancy means any cancerous conditions. In that cancerous condition especially, it is not releasing parathyroid hormone. So that cancer cell that is producing parathyroid hormone related protein. So when the parathyroid hormone related protein that is released into the blood, then that is producing more calcium, releasing of more calcium or reabsorption of the more calcium. Next function is hyperparathyroidism. So hyperparathyroidism, when there is an enlargement of the parathyroid gland. So here this image you can see enlarged parathyroid gland. So when it is enlarged parathyroid gland takes place, so there is a chance to release more amount of parathyroid hormone. So these are the causes. Okay, so when too much calcium enters the extracellular fluid, kidneys to excrete filtered calcium is exceeded. So when too much calcium enters the extracellular fluid, so in these conditions, when it is releasing more thyroid hormone, that may cause to produce more calcium from the bone or more calcium to the from the kidney excretion. So here, when the elevated calcium that is takes place in the blood, there is a chance to excrete more calcium. So when it is elevated levels of the calcium, there is a chance to excrete more calcium. Okay, this is about hypercalcemia causes. Next one is measurement of the total serum calcium. So it is we are doing in the central lab. So here with the using of this orthochrysophthalin complex zone method, with the using of this method, we are estimating total serum calcium. Okay, so there are another instrument that is called electrolyte analyzer. It is there in the our central lab. So that is for estimating of ionized calcium. So if you want to know about only ionized calcium, that is possible in electrolyte analyzer. So so here in the lab we are doing we are estimating total serum calcium in the blood with the using of method orthochrysophthalin complex zone method. So that principle is in alkaline pH. So in the alkaline pH, we know that in the alkaline pH, proteins are negatively charged. More proteins are negatively charged. So in that alkaline state, more proteins are combining with the calcium ions, occupied by calcium ions. Okay, so O-chrysophthalin complex zone color, it is a color reagent. So here this is the reagent O-chrysophthalin complex zone. It is a reagent. It is a color reagent. So this color reagent immediately that binds to the calcium, whatever calcium present in the protein. So immediately that forms a complex purple color of the calcium that is produces. So this purple color that is mainly depending on the calcium concentration. So if there is a high amount of calcium concentration, that gives more purple color. So if it is having low calcium concentration, that gives less purple color. So this color concentration that is mainly depending on the calcium ion concentration, binding of this color reagent to the calcium ions. The intensity of the color is a measure of concentration of calcium in the serum. The serum sample is diluted with the acid to release protein bond and the anion bond calcium. So here this is the next one is procedure. These are the we have to take 3 test tubes: blank, standard, and test. This OCPC reagent, orthochrysophthalin complex zone reagent, each test tube we have to add 1 ml. Then in the blank, we need to add 20 microliters of the distilled water, and in the standard, that is we know that the standard value 2.5 millimoles per liter. That is, we are adding 20 microliters of the standard to the standard tube. Then serum sample from the patient serum sample we are adding in the test 20 microliters. Then we will mix and keep for 5 minutes. And this 5 minutes is the incubation period. In that 5 minutes only, that reaction of the calcium test that is takes place. So what is that reaction here? That a color reagent that has to bind with the calcium ions. So in that 5 minutes, that color reagent that is binds to the calcium ions. Then read the absorbance of the blank, standard, and test at 578 nanometers. So calorimetry, already we are adjusting the 578 nanometers or 580 nanometers. Then we are taking the readings of the blank, standard, and test. So here we are noting that blank, standard, test. So then after calculation, you know that what is the calculations. So here concentration of the standard value is 2.5. So here after calculating, we are giving the result, how much of a percentage that is present. If it is 8.0 milligrams per deciliter. So this is the overall class of the estimation of the serum calcium. So in this class, we know that what is calcium, how it is present in the blood, what are the abnormal conditions, hypercalcemia, hypocalcemia. in the hypercalcemia, what are the conditions that is causes or takes place in the hypocalcemia, in what causes that is produces hypocalcemia. So this is the about estimation of serum calcium. Thank you.